Suzy Wrong. Joy Drive with Dean Warren's film, TV and theatre reviewer.
Suzy Wrong, it's so good to have you back on Joy Drive.
Is that because I'm an award-winning actor now?
That's right.
Congratulations. Tell us about the award, because I saw it on the Facebook.
Yeah, it's the Equity Ensemble Award. So the cast of Hungry Ghosts won Best Performance by an Ensemble for a miniseries or TV movie.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. And don't forget, you can still see Hungry Ghosts.
I had a look the other night. Is it on SBS streaming?
SBS On Demand?
It is still, it's still there. It's amazing bragging rights because we beat Kate Blanchett.
That old
Well done.
and Asher Ketty and Yvonne Strahovski for their amazing work in Stateless. So it came as a complete surprise, but obviously such a huge honour.
Now, Suzy, congratulations. This week you gave us two things for homework. Pose, Season 3, which we'll talk about shortly, which is on Binge, and also Ride or Die, which is currently streaming on Netflix. Let's start with that because I found I was dying more than riding. Do you want to tell us about it?
The Japanese film Ride or Die on Netflix is a sort of explicitly lesbian version of Thelma and Louise. It's a road movie in which two women, old friends from high school, are on the run after plastic surgeon Ray murders Nanae's husband upon discovering that he had been secretly beating her up to a pulp. In their attempts to evade apprehension, the old friends drive themselves out of Tokyo, becoming gradually closer in a very physical sense as we observe the formation of a rather meaningful but sometimes dangerous romantic relationship. So you didn't quite get into it very, very well, did you?
I'll start because I felt that I left it too late. I didn't try to start watching it until 8 p.m. last night. I was trying to, I like to watch my shows while I'm doing my cooking, getting my dinner ready. And then so because it was subtitled, which I should have thought about before when you'd said it's a Japanese film. So I was like, I have to sit still and watch it. So that didn't help. And then it starts very dramatically. And then I thought, it's going to be one of those films. And then not even two very attractive women being intimate was enough to save this film for me.
Well, first of all, you just for your listeners, you can actually choose the option to listen to the film in English. There is an English sort of dubbed version of that.
Oh, maybe I should have done that.
Well, this is really interesting, Suzy. I'm glad you said that because I found it hard to follow. And I must admit, when the domestic violence scenes came up, I had to turn it off. I found it really I couldn't watch it. I just couldn't watch it.
Pretty full on.
The other thing is, I was actually wanting subtitles, so I watched the dubbed version, and I found it really annoying. It took away the whole authenticity for me. I just felt like you could tell that the people were reacting the characters, so I didn't like it at all. And you know what? And then I kept thinking all through it. I thought, you know what? My other homework is Pose. My other homework is Pose. My other homework is Pose. And then I just stopped and said, I can't do this anymore.
And hilariously, or interestingly, Warren and I stopped watching it at the same point,
exactly
which
the
is
same point.
Shortly after that, it becomes violent between the women, which was interesting.
Yeah, that bit sort of came out of nowhere. I think that there are a lot of sort of cultural differences that I'm watching the film and I'm thinking that is really weird, the way that they've done this, they've done that. And I'm wondering how much of it is us not being familiar with, first of all, the culture, and also I think it is sort of a kind of genre that is probably specific to Japanese culture.
Yeah.
It feels sometimes like manga, and it sometimes feels like soft porn, and it's sort of a hybrid of quite strange film genres that makes it, I think, for our tastes as Australian eyes, that feels sort of more an oddity than a good film.
We're talking, Suzy. Yeah. We're talking to Suzy Wrong about Ride or Die, which is currently streaming on Netflix at the moment. Suzy, it was also a very long film, like it was over 2 hours, and I think that I kept looking, I kept pausing it so I could see how much further there was to go.
That's a sign of things to come, isn't it? If you're pausing already. Also, Suzy, we watch a lot of short form television streaming, and I think that we're now conditioned to sort of 40-minute lots of concentration. Mind you, we can do 10 of those in a row.
Well, yeah, you're right, but I think Ride or Die is structured in such a strange way. Like that, things happen so sort of episodically, and you almost feel like, I've had enough.
And it was hard to follow too. Well, I found it very difficult.
Did you like it, Suzy?
I like that it made me feel really curious. I just felt like, what the hell? Why are you telling this story in such a weird way? And it reminded me of early days, in my early 20s when I was discovering world cinema, that feeling of like, oh, they just simply have a different language of conveying things on the screen, and we're just used to a very Hollywood way or whatever way that we are sort of used to. And then when you are exposed to something that's different, it feels very, very alien. And I did a bit of research on Wikipedia and all that. The director is actually very, very experienced, but it is sort of a niche sort of style that he does. He started I think in the 70s, 80s doing soft porn. So that it is sort of a really outsider kind of film, which I feel like even I'm not used to, and I kind of see a lot of alternative film.
I quite liked the weird convention. They use traditional conventions of flashbacks and flash forwards, which is used in all American cinema as well. But this is kind of very, very hard to follow, and I don't think it was a language barrier. But I think you're right; it's a cultural barrier. Do you know the thing that I really gravitated towards was the class discrepancies in Japan, which I don't think you really explore as much. Like, one is a very wealthy girl and one's a very poor girl, and the difference in the homes and things like I was interested in that less than the actual soft porn element.
Yeah, I was interested in trying to see what Japanese lesbians would look like,
Well,
because
they look great. By all accounts.
They're very beautiful in sort of conventional way, but we don't sort of get a lot of representations of queer Asian people anywhere, especially in Japan, I think. So it was sort of an opportunity to sort of satisfy my curiosity. Not that they were very accurate representations, I don't think.
We are talking to Suzy Rong, our Joy regular theatre, film and TV critic. Suzy, we'll come back in a little while and we'll talk about Pose Season 3, which is fantastic, and it was like coming home. Suzy, our next bit of homework that you set us was to watch, at least the first episode of Pose, Season 3, which is currently streaming on Binge. Suzy, do you want to just give us a bit of a recap of Pose itself?
The American series Pose is back for its final season, sadly, after an unexpected COVID hiatus last year. The first 3 episodes are now available to view on Binge, and we are off to a blistering start with, in my opinion, some of the most compelling TV ever made. For those uninitiated, Pose is concerned with the New York City LGBTQ ballroom scene at the end of the 20th century, and in particular it focuses on stories about colourful characters from the fictitious but very much based on reality House of Abundance.
So, can I just say something, Suzy? This is one of those series that, when you... And I haven't had it since, I think, the final series of Game of Thrones, where it's the final series and you start to grieve that it's the final series, and therefore I know there were 3 episodes available when I watched it, but I'm going to drag them out because I don't want it to end.
I did that too. 1 episode only. I thought, just have a little bit of bite of
something
that.
to look forward to again.
But I'm watching it as soon as I can get.
You're a binger. I will say,
my goodness,
it's interesting, Suzy Rong, that you said some of the most compelling television that has ever been made, because I'm not sure if I'm just being quite contrary, but I found, and it could again be a mood thing, but I found that the start of season 3 didn't move me as much as the end of season 2, and I'm not sure, it felt like it was more tentative and less fun. I'm not sure if that reads for you.
Not at all. I was really into it. And, they had the ballroom scenes, didn't they? Weren't those fun?
Yeah, the ballroom scenes are fun. It just felt, I don't know, less
or was
joyous.
it the AIDS patients in the hospital thing?
Maybe because I was quite moved by that. And they seem to have jumped ahead quite a bit. I'm not sure if there's a time lag other than the fact that they missed a season of shooting. But it feels like we've jumped right into the 90s, have we?
Yeah,
93.
I think we left it at 1991, and I think it's jumped a couple of years
to 1993.
It just seems to have modernised and
quite suddenly.
You know what I really like about it? I think this is the thing, and I did mean it. It was like coming home when I switched over and started watching it, and I feel like I don't know. I feel like Pose it shows us the potential of what our community can be like, and I wonder if we've lost a little bit of that over the years. And I know I'm generalising, but it's easy for us to shame each other. To be worried about body image and to look at the pecking order, particularly I guess amongst gay men as well. Who's better than who? And I'm just wondering if we've lost a bit of that community of what it was like back in the 80s and 90s when we were forced via another pandemic to come together.
Did you feel that you had that sense of community back then?
Yes, I did, and I'll be honest now. I feel like that sense of community is perhaps missing a little bit, and that could just be my experience of life at the moment. But certainly watching Pose, I thought, oh wow, this is what's missing.
Well, they do say that, don't they? Do say that the AIDS pandemic really created much of the community, because it didn't force us, but it created the environment where we all had to grip onto each other and create that community. Maybe without a common enemy, there's no reason not to bitch. Like is the vibe. I found this a little, that sort of the conflict between the characters very grating. I don't know why, and particularly that when drugs and alcohol come into it, it just felt too placed there to make us go, oh, this is the episode about where Pray Tell has an intervention about, and then it all just sort of wraps up so nicely at the end of that one episode. It's like you can't deal with something that massive in one episode. Did you not feel that, Suzy?
No, I didn't. I think I'm, as a trans person, there are no other places where you can watch a show and feel so much like you can relate to the characters as much as this. And even though they're culturally so far away from me, they're oceans away, but there's just nothing else on the telly that I can feel like, oh, I'm so much like this and that and this and that, whether it's just my fantasy or not. Other than MasterChef, where I see, a lot of Asian people, I feel like, oh, I'm a bit like that.
And I think Pose does that. I think it envelops everyone in our community. It doesn't matter, how you identify. Everyone's in there, and I think, and everyone's getting along, and it's a real family feel. I wanted to ask you a question, Suzy, and that was with Blanca. There's one scene where Blanca's new boyfriend says, "Hey, let's take the next step and meet my family," and Blanca, of course, is a trans woman. How did that make you feel, Suzy? Did that trigger anything?
Oh yeah, absolutely. When that happened, I just thought, oh, that's one of the main reasons why I've sort of stayed away from getting into serious relationships, just having to deal with other people's families. And it was portrayed well enough. I think the mother being quite a piece of work was good to watch, and it felt sort of accurate. The way that the boyfriend really stood up for her, I don't think was very convincing. No. But it was really, it was really great to watch. It was extremely well written, I thought. But that's a real thing, because to deal with the people in public is one thing. Strangers that you might meet on the street is one thing, but to talk to sort of have to deal with people that are going to be family, I don't know. I think it's just too hard. It's too much. It's too much work.
And I think that's really lovely of you to share that with us as well, Suzy. And I think Blanca, and it was done perfectly in the series as well. We are talking about Pose, the third series and final, apparently. And final series with Suzy Wrong.
Can I just say quickly, Suzy, I agree with you totally. I thought that was, as soon as they'd set that up as, and I wanted to introduce you to my mother, and obviously she's going to clock you as a trans woman, and it's all going to go tits up. When he said to his mother, and if you can't respect who I love, then you're dead to me, kind of thing. I thought, I just think that's a bit too convenient. I thought that was the most unbelievable thing that had happened. I mean, it was nice storytelling, in that it was sort of fanciful.
It was hard. It was hard to believe, but it was so good to see, because you almost, like, I literally didn't want the reality to happen at that stage, because there was enough reality from the mother acting that way. I didn't want the reality of the boyfriend being a coward.
Yeah. Look, it's one of my favourite series of all time. I would encourage everyone to go and see it. Start with season 1, Pose. It is currently streaming on Binge at the moment. Suzy Wrong, what is our homework for next week?
Next week, we're going to Vietnam with Goodbye Mother, which is available on SBS On Demand for everyone.
Goodbye Mother on SBS On Demand.
I was hoping we get some free to air because, not everybody can be on the streaming services. So it's great that we can all watch that. Goodbye Mother on the SBS On Demand. With streaming, you can stream so much good stuff on SBS. I love it.
When will we see you next, Suzy?
Guess what? I'm seeing you next Tuesday.
See you then.
Bye-bye, Suzy Wrong.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.